Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. Oh, hope you're all well who's watching and also going to catch up as well. I'm delighted to be joined by the Legion of Doom, my partner in crime. Willie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Aye, it's been a bit of a mad week, but I looking forward to chatting current affairs and not being on for 4 hours steaming drunk this week. So looking forward to it.
Mate, that was a marathon and a half. Me,
Oh,
me and
jeez.
Ryan, who we'd done a rewind before, we were sitting watching it in his house and we had some laugh trying to do them quizzes, by the way, see the lineups and all. Honestly, talking about stuff you forget. It was incredible. It was a great podcast. But
Good man.
already we'll have Alistair Jack, Corvo, NUFC, and Jed Thomas in the comments, which is fantastic. So great to have you along. And I think to be fair, Willie, before we get stuck in, you spoke about mental health last week very passionately on the podcast. How's your week been? Have you had a good week?
It's been a bit so. I wasn't well last weekend after that Friday night, um, but I just working away mentally. Aye, all right, all right.
Good
Got good
man.
pals, good
Good man.
family around me, so we're all good. But I remember wanting to touch on it a wee bit last week because I think, like I said, I don't remember exactly what I said because I was wrecked, but but
No change there. Like
but I know that, like I said, the wee community we've got, and everybody's always like kind of a shoulder to cry on in the comments when I'm on every week and I'm sitting watching the comments. Everybody's kind of making sure everybody's all right, and I think it's just really good thing.
yeah, 100%. And as you said before, we literally have like underneath me here, we'll have numbers, the ring, the contact if anyone's feeling down or they feel like they need to talk to someone, and also us as well as a podcast panel. Willie, John, Anthony, Franny, Ross, myself, just get in contact. You know what I mean? But let's be fair, Celtic have kind of made us happier this week, regardless of moods and situations. And we'll start with the first one. The first announcement, Willie, before we come on to obviously Jada and stuff leaving, was Kyogo has signed for another 4 years in the hoops. And just looking at his stats and his numbers, I think he's over 53 goals and 80 odd appearances.
Four
And I'm
games
sure
or
there's
something.
I'm sure there's a good couple of assists in there. And just like about Kyogo coming from Fasel Kobe, we broke the J League transfer record to get him in. I think Manchester United are about to break that for like a 18-year-old keeper. But what can we do about that? In terms of Kyogo coming in to us, playing with the likes of Iniesta, you've seen it when he first came in. His movement, his runs. Sometimes the players weren't on the same wavelength, like the Turnbull and stuff. Postecoglou, when he was in charge, spoke about that a lot. But it clicked, and when he was in form, he was frightening. He got doubles in cup finals. He destroyed Sevco on numerous occasions. And to be honest, I think for me, the number 8 jersey was a hard jersey to fill after Brownie. And in terms of a striking sense, in terms of important goals and what he brings to the team, he shows up and he brings that quality week in, week out.
Yeah, absolutely. That still kills me, by the way, that he wears number 8. See, I don't know, I'm old-fashioned, but a striker wearing number 8, it's just, it kills me inside. But, I can't remember somebody coming in and having as immediate an impact as Kyogo for a long time. He's been fantastic since he's came to us, and with Angie's style in the high press anyway, I mean, Joe Hart was talking about it this week about how great a person he is, but he talks about his press for the front, and he's the catalyst for all of that. He's been just fantastic since he's came in, and yeah, absolutely, Corvo. Since he's came in, he's been absolutely tremendous. And when I was sitting thinking about when he signed it, like how important he is to us at the moment, and I don't know if we're going to touch on Jota, but with Jota
Oh, we
going,
will. Oh, we will.
um, I was thinking about the importance to the team, and I think Kyogo, he must rank up there in the top 2 or 3. And what I mean by that, with Jota going, yes, it's a massive loss to us. Obviously, he's a wonderful talent, and I'm gutted to see him go. But in his position, I feel like we've got adequate backup or adequate people that can come in, and we won't miss as much. I think if Kyogo left right now, this squad of players, we're not fucked. But up front, we've not got I think looks a great prospect, but he's nowhere near the ability of Kyogo. So I just think his importance to the team's massive, and I think that showed last year. He played the majority of the games. He came up with some massive goals for us, and yeah, I was really pleased because we've had a bit of. I don't want to say it's a a bit of damp squib, or it's a bit downer recently because Ange leaving, and then I feel like the Rodgers coming in, which is a massive, massive appointment, it's kind of been overshadowed by
Yep.
John going as well, and it seems like it's a bit. People are getting a bit downhearted, and this is just massive news for us to think that out of all the players last year, the player of the year in the league, or fans player of the year, the team's player, he was player of the year and everything. He would have been a target, no doubt in my mind, for a lot of teams. And for him to show that loyalty and want to stay here, it's massive. It's as big as a new signing coming in. It's massive news.
I think you nailed it. Like I said before, obviously I love Rodgers coming back and stuff, and you get used to that fact. But it's not the same type of buzz you have when he first came, because you know what it's like. And you're right in a sense where we're still a wee bit in that kind of flux period where we're like, we want to feel happy, but we're like in this kind of limbo situation. And then we've obviously Jota leaving. But what Kyogo does give you is that confidence shot, do you know what I mean? Because people were speaking about the Japanese players, and we're going to come on to that obviously as well with Maeda, that maybe they're afraid that we're going to leave, or they're afraid they're going to join join Postecoglou down at Spurs. But that's not been the case. And for me, Kyogo is like a new signing, because in that sense, I mean, what was it, for over 30 goals last season? So I mean, the first season he got curtailed by injury, and to bring it back to that, he kept Giacomakis, getting the lights turned off here. This metal studio production team has went down a lot, but keeping Giacomakis out of the starting lineup, he eventually had to leave the football club due to Kyogo being the number one boy. But I think for the majority of us, he's who we preferred. And I know Franny, he loved Giacomakis, the chaos, and we all did. He was a great one-touch finisher. But for that 4-year contract, for him to commit to this for that length of time, shows me where his intentions lie. He's not looking for a move elsewhere. And I know the media especially tried to portray when he was with Japan that he's like not committing his future, he's being coy. And again, that goes back to Billy, doesn't it? The media do try and unsettle things. When it seems like things are on the up, they try and bring it straight back down and put you in the panic stations. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, we've talked about it recently with Ange with the badge thumping, and even more so Jota, his connection with the fan base and the song, and how he always talked about the fans, and like I say, that relationship between the two. But first sign, they're both gone, whereas Kyogo's got that connection just as much, if not more so. But he's shown how important that is to him by signing that deal. Like I say, there's no doubt in my mind, decent clubs, very decent clubs would have been looking at him, because he's had 2 wonderful seasons at us, just like Jota did. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was offers coming in, but he's obviously loved his time here, and we're just equally as excited to keep him. And not just that, he's not a young boy, and like I think he's 28, 29.
This is probably his only chance now to get that move.
He's signing in his peak. He's right in his peak now, and if there was ever a time to go on to bigger clubs or elite clubs or whatever it is that people see, then now would probably be the time to go, where his stock is high. And so fair play to him. I love the wee man for doing what he's done. It's massive for us.
Paul has loaded up on a supper and his breakfast with me, so he's ready for Marvin. This is going to be easy listening. We're just going to relax and talk current affairs. But to be fair again to Willie and the people who are on, it was an excellent podcast. We all can't deny that. But obviously, in terms of systems, I think Kyogo probably, out of the 2 players who signed a new contract, again, we're going to come on to Maeda, suits Rodgers down to the ground, because you looked at his Celtic team before, Lee Griffiths, you looked at Odds and Edward, you looked at Moussa Dembele, they're all kind of off-the-cuff strikers playing the last kind of defender and trying to make a break for it. Maybe Dembele, probably a different profile, but you get what I'm saying. And then you looked at his Leicester team, Ayoze Perez, you looked at Jamie Vardy, Iheanacho, again, that similar profile. So are you excited to see what Kyogo's going to bring in this system with Rodgers? Yeah. And also, again, I think for me, you look at, I know it's possession-based football, but it's more opportunities to find them cutting-edge runs that he makes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've got players that will find them as well, which was shown last season. But I think Rodgers said it himself. I don't think it was his press conference. I think it was was there a wee Celtic View interview he kind of done it before the the day before the press conference
I
with
think there might have been.
Jerry Doherty, I think it was, and they kind of talked, and he touched on Kyogo, and he made that same comparison you did with Vardy. He says, "I've always loved, that striker that's the pressing and pushing that defence, and Kyogo fits that like a glove. I don't think he'll be looking to." He'll be looking for any more, maybe in reinforcements and backup, but Kyogo's going to be his number one man, just like Vardy was, just like Suarez was. I think he's a similar type, and I think he'll shoot Rodgers' motto to the ground. I think he really will, and I think he'll just smash it again next year. I can't see him stopping. He's just electric, and he's just getting better and better. And the connection we've got with him is you can see it. You can see it in him when he celebrates, when he does the dancing at the end.
I like I don't know what he does. Something with his head.
I dancing with the fans after games. He's bought into it, and he's shown his loyalty. We've talked a lot recently about Ange, like I said, with his badge thumping, and what was that all just nonsense, or did he? But Kyogo's proven his worth, and he's definitely proven his worth with signing this deal. Like I said, 4-year deal at his age, 29, his peak years. And it's brilliant for the club as well, by the way, to get him tied down. You've got to give them a pat on the back, because it's massive to keep him. But even if, again, he has another wonderful season and needs to go, it's going to be big bucks to get him, because he's on a 4-year deal now.
Yeah, I think as well with Kyogo, like we spoke about the system and stuff, and Corvo was like, how could he reject a new contract when Rodgers calls him a beautiful human being? And Michael Ross, 3 players signed, 2 important players, contracts extended. We'll all come on to the supposed war test, but I'm pretty certain, Michael, that these talks would have been taking place during the season in terms of trying to feel the players out and see who wants to sign these extensions. So it's probably carried off from that. But I mean, you look at his stats again, 80 odd games, I think it's 83 games, 53 goals. And if he continues that, he's going to be breaking records. Obviously, you don't want to put a jinx on it, but he's going to be up there, and he's going to be pushing for certain individuals, maybe a king individual scoring target. But again, we'll come on to that when the times comes. But another player who signed a new deal, and we've spoken about the system before, and maybe everyone thought maybe this is the guy who we could kind of let go, or didn't see where he fitted into Rodgers' style. Me personally, my take on it, you're probably going to laugh at me here, but I think he's going to use Maeda as more of a striker, or like a shadow type striker, to do the press with Kyogo, take him away from the left hand side. Because if you look at Marco Tilio coming in, you look at Haksabanovic, players like of that ilk, but Maeda signs a new 4-year deal, similar 24-25, again going over his peak years. He's going to be entering them. And Roger said in his comments he's looking forward to working with him, his qualities, his speed, his character, and stuff like that. So where do you see Maeda fitting in, and what do you think he's going to bring under this Rodgers team?
I think much the same. We've always talked about how, I think we kind of always talk about how good he is for us defensively and offensively. Talking about the press with Kyogo, he's just as good, if not better. I don't see much change in where he's going to play. I like him on the left. But I think sometimes we get a bit too caught up in his defensive abilities and forget about his attacking abilities. He's still a fantastic player, and with the goals that he scores, it seems like he always pops up in the right place at the right time. He's got a very good football and IQ. Massive that we've got him signed on again. Absolutely massive. I think he's a tremendous player, very, very underrated. I think that coming from that kind of what you're talking about, that he might have been one of the ones that were let go. I think it's because people focus too much on numbers sometimes. He does so much.
Did he not get double figures last year? Did he get double figures?
I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what the exact figures are. I know he had a bit of a small bad period, and then he had a bit of an injury for a wee bit. But he again popped up with some massive goals. Got popped up with a goal for Ibrox, which was a fantastic goal when he went through.
I thought when Alfredo Morelos tried the crossfield pass, and he was like, "Nope, bump."
And I just think he's another fabulous talent. I'm so happy that we've got him signed on. Another one that's shown his loyalty. He's the one. We've got the Japanese crew have been absolutely tremendous for us. He's the one that's been a mainstay in the national side. So I mean, the one out of all of them. So I think people do underrate him. Massive signing. Just need one more Japanese player to sign a 4-year deal, and I'll be happy.
I mean, Alistair Jack comes in, 11 goals from the left-hand side. I think that's a great return. And we all know, if we're cynical enough here, Maeda's football ability is leaving a wee bit to be desired. But what he does give you, like you said, Willie, it's the enthusiasm, it's the effort, it's the willingness to run, chase people down. And that's for me where I think it's going to fit in perfectly to Rodgers, maybe in Europe more so than the SPFL.
Mm-hmm.
Just for example, like he did for Japan, he played that counter-attacking system. He was the one spearheading that press, and he's not the prettiest. He's not the most effective, but he gets people on their toes and he chases, and sometimes that's what you need, especially that top level football. And Corville comes in.
I agreed. Sorry, and just to say that, all right, okay.
Corville, I like you. A two-prong. Do you think he's going to convert him, Willie, or do you think he'll stay on the left?
I think he can be used there sparingly, but I think he will predominantly be kept on the left. I prefer him there. I just think he's fantastic. What I was going to say there about when you said, and I do agree to an extent, he's maybe not technically as gifted as most, but what he lacks in that he gives in effort and us as fans. Like I don't care if you're not the most technically gifted, but I want you to give 110% every time you pull that shirt on, and he without doubt does that every time he goes out in that field. And Rodgers coming in, I think, is going to be massive. Like I said, the difference between him and Ange, like Ange obviously was unbelievable, and like he's unbelievable tactician, and the way he wanted us to play. But and I know we're going to touch on it with O'Reilly, but I seen before, and I talked about it before weeks ago when he left it, when Rodgers came in, that it really seemed that Postecoglou was not like I wouldn't say he's not a great man manager, because he obviously he was obviously great at getting the boys going. But I mean one on one, it seemed like he was very standoffish. He didn't get meddled in that sort of stuff. I feel like that was probably Calmac's domain when he was there, and maybe John Kennedy and the rest of them. They're the ones that kind of. Rodgers is obviously a one-to-one coach, and he's done it. He's worked wonders. I think I've said it 100 times. Forrest was the scapegoat when Rodgers first came in, and he turned him into an absolute animal. Again, I think he was very raw at the time. Maybe wasn't as great technically, but really good work rate, speed, all the rest of it. It just reminds me of Maeda. I think he can work wonders with him.
Well, it's like improving players. When he first came in, obviously after Ronnie that season, look at Stuart Armstrong. He took his game to a different level. Look at even Calmac. He was playing on the wings.
You've got like Armstrong, man.
I think he is one of my favorite players. He was excellent. But you look at Calmac, he was kind of in and out on the wings and didn't really suit him. I mean, you looked at Griffiths, albeit he was the spearhead of Ronnie's team. He took his game to a different level. And you could go through it all. Even Leicester, I mean, Jamie Vardy found different gears under him. Jose Perez came from Newcastle. He wasn't getting the sniff. Harvey Barnes, he took him from literally nothing to a hero for Leicester. So, and even Mark Albrighton, the guy who never seems to. He baffles me how he still plays in the Premier League. It's crazy, but he does, and it's probably down to Brendan Rodgers and his coaching. So, I do get what you're saying in that instance, and we'll probably come on to that more during the podcast. But another Japanese player that you spoke about there was Rio Hatate, Willie, and as one of the taglines in the title is, will there be more good news coming? Hopefully. Can you foresee that Hatate comes back from his holidays and he does the wee camera, wee wink, and then we see him signing a 4-year deal? Can you see it happening that easy? Yeah. I don't know. I'm in two minds.
I can, mate. And see, to be honest, going into this summer, it's easy to say now because Jota's gone, right? Obviously, I wanted to keep Jota. He was absolutely tremendous for us last season. And when the rumours came about, and I'm like you now, I used to be glasses half full, and I don't believe it until I see the scarf. But every rumour that comes out now, I'm like, right, he's gone because fucking nobody stays in football.
Rewind that again.
Totally in the glasses half empty for me now. Every footballer's dick. Anyway, before we went into the summer, the sort of two, I say the two that I want to keep because the likes of Calmac and that aren't going anywhere. I don't care what money's getting thrown at him. He's not leaving. I just don't see it. So obviously, he's not. I'm just ruling him out straight away. I'm not worried about him going. So the two that I really wanted to keep hold of were Kyogo and Rio Hatate. I really think I think he can go on to like. Well, obviously, we're a massive club, but when I say I like to use the term elite clubs, the guys that are the PSGs, the Man Cities, Liverpools, Real Madrids.
Yep.
He's still a young boy. I honestly think he can, if he keeps going at the rate he's going and gets coached. the way he's been getting coached and he keeps progressing, I think he can play at one of these, like a Van Dijk's done. I think he can go on and do wonderful, wonderful things. So I think we need to try and really push and sign him up. I seen a quote recently, I don't know if it's true, that he got interviewed. And I don't know, with translations as well, because I think he had the interview in Japanese, so people twist things. But I think he has said that he does have like an aim to play in like the English Premier League or whatever at some point, but he wants to continue doing what he does for the team and all that in the moment. So I think we need to, even the money, I think we need to get him signed on next. I think that's massive for me.
I think that was in regards to the Saudi interest, wasn't it? They asked him about the Saudi Arabian League, and he said he harbours the ambition to go to the EPL. And I get what you're saying, but me, like Dyson, I probably contradicting myself here, but he probably would have been the most easiest to convince to sign up for 4 years. Kyogo, like you said, probably had options around Europe, the Bundesliga, Serie A. I'm pretty sure there was clubs chasing him. And then Rio, he's the you say elite level. I think he's going to be an elite player, and I think he's looking at his age, 24, and he's going one more year maybe max. That's where my head's at. But again, you can counter that. If Celtic give him a 4-year deal, then it maximises his transfer value. Would that be what you're thinking there, or would you rather stay for the 4 years, but being realistic about it?
Well, it's hard to tell. Based on what I've seen, I would obviously like him to stay as long as possible, but in 2 years' time, it could be a totally different answer. But I would do everything I can. Just like the other two boys, I would try and get him signed on a 4-year deal, and in a year or two, if somebody comes in with a massive offer and he wants to go, just like Jota and and whoever else, if the move is in their interest and they don't want to be at the club anymore, then fair enough, that's fine. But yeah, at this moment in time, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think that he can do more with us, and I think he wants to stay and do more. But I genuinely think he's going to reach the top, and I think a couple more seasons with us would help him on his way. I don't think going to a Southampton or something now is going to benefit him in his career at this moment in time. So I reckon, and I think he's got different thoughts to the likes of Jota. If the rumours are true, then he would have been offered money for Saudi, and it seems like that's dead in the water, or it's not going to happen. So fair play him for that. But yeah, I think we need to get him nailed down. One, because he's a wonderful, wonderfully talented footballer, and I want to see him at Celtic Park for as long as we can. But two, if he does eventually want to go, then it's getting a fee. Aye, exactly that, Paul. You need to get a good fee for him.
It's mental how that us as Celtic fans think with business, think transfer fees, and think what's going to happen in the future. But again, it's what happens. I mean, we know that we know that players have shelf lives. We know that managers have shelf lives at this club, and I think we need to get comfortable with that thought. And
see the funny thing is, sorry mate. See when you're saying that, I know we're going to touch on the rumours, but see when for example, you hear the rumour about McTominay or whatever, and it's 11 million and fucking whatever, however many tens of thousands a week. The first thing I'm thinking is, McTominay's an unbelievable, brilliant player. I'm obviously a big Scotland fan. I go and watch every game at Hampden, and I think he's a wonderful, wonderful player, and I would take him in a heartbeat. But my first thought was, can I pay 11 million for him though, and 50 grand or 60 grand for him a week? Why should I fucking care about that? The board, if we can afford that and the board pay it, then fucking pay it and get him in. Why am I worried about that? We're all fucking businessmen now. It's mental.
Do you know what I think about stuff like that? I know I harp on about a lot, and we've had really good debates about paying bigger transfer fees, but seeing it comes to the nitty gritty of it, you're going, fuck, 11 million, shit. Can we do that? What if the season goes wrong?
I think it's because I play Football Manager all the time, and I'm like, fuck, if I wouldn't be paying 11 million for that, know me.
When you go for your wage budget by $2,000, you're shaking yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Why am I worried about that? If we can get him,
I don't know.
Why the fuck do I care about that?
Maybe it's because the board conditioned us to think they got every season we're getting told this, we're getting told that. But here, I do it the same. I love the romance of paying a big transfer fee, but at the end of the day, in the back of your mind, you're going, shit, what if we don't do well this season? We're going to have to do a fire sale. We're going to have to do this. Do you know what I mean? But it's crazy. We're conditioned. We're conditioned to think like that. Jed Thomas, our trade model works, but we need to go on to the next level to compete in Europe. Yeah, 100%. But in terms of obviously kind of the tail off the Japanese contention a wee bit, what interests me, and I don't know if the players are thinking about this, who's currently there, maybe Rio Itate's weighing this up. Next season, touch wood, if we get into the Champions League, we're guaranteed 8 games. So, I mean, it changes the whole landscape of European football.
As in
Changes.
the next again season, eh? So this season it's still group stages, and then the next again season it's
it changes. The format basically goes into a league form. So do you think that maybe weighs in the players' minds? Do you think that can come into
it?
Or do you think that's, like, let's be honest, do you think that's a pull? I know we say we got Champions League football, but at the moment it's 6 games, it goes to 8 games. But then if you're a Rio Tate, if you look at that, you could be like, I could be playing at the Etihad, Anfield, Old Trafford, wherever it may be, week in, week out. Why should I stay for a select amount of games and then after Christmas I'm sitting and scratching my arse up in Dingwall? Do you think that's a pull now?
I don't know. I think that's a choice the guys need to make. More often than not, when it is a move to the English Premier League, it's not one of the top 6 sides or whatever the club is, and they need to weigh up whether they can show the class in the Champions League with us and get a move on the back of that, or go and play with Brentford and try and do their best to then get a move on for there. Nah. I wouldn't. I'm not saying it's a bad. Just for me, I wouldn't. I just think Hatate's. I just think he's class, absolute class. I really like McTominay, but I don't know enough about this rider. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I know he's like a wonder kid, and there's a lot of people looking to sign him up. But I would rather keep Hatate and sign McTominay in this rider. I mean, we're going to touch on the stuff that's been, has been released later on, but we're minted. We're no need to say that.
But here comes the money. Here we go. And then, should we sign that player? Nah, it's too much.
Nah, it's too much. It's too much.
Give me Duke for 900 grand. I'm happy.
Duke and Mugabe from Motherwell.
Yeah, leave Mugabe alone. He's an excellent defender, right? I don't even know if he still plays them. But we'll go on to some of the player interviews this week, and obviously Joe Hart. We'll talk about him first here, and I think it's interesting the praise he had for Brendan Rodgers, and he was kind of referencing the different ways to go about things and his reputation. And then obviously for me, Joe Hart looks really buzzed up for this season. I think we've seen in recent days. Ross Doohan has went to Aberdeen. Connor Hazard's going to Plymouth. So I think in the goalkeeping department, it leaves it with Joe Hart, Benjamin Siegrist, Toby Alawami, and Scott Bain, I believe. So that leaves four goalkeepers. So quite simply to you, and obviously taking into account the rumours on the Twitter sphere, or I think there's a new one now, Fred's, because Elon Musk went a bit mental, and it really annoyed me, by the way. He restricted my limits and I couldn't see anything for a day. I was sweating, absolutely sweating in case I missed something. But I feel like Isa is still game though. That's second-hand news. I can't do it. I need to be the first one to say it. But do you think Joe Hart's going to be number one going into next season? And also as well, what I loved about it, the interview, he was so upbeat. So I mean, he was so like, he was praising Rodgers, and he also said Postecoglou had a decision to make, and he made it. Kind of time to move on and go into this new season fully aware of what's going to happen. Rodgers told him in a meeting last season was great. Time to focus on this season. Obviously, the slogan, "Let's get to work." Where do you think Joe Hart goes in this front in terms of the work in the starting lineup?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I think, like, for me, I think he was going to be number one. I've not seen anything to tell me otherwise. I don't think it's going to be. To be fair, I know a lot of people last year said that that is. I know a lot of people said that is like one of the number one areas we should be looking to strengthen. I don't think it's a necessity. If we can get somebody in, yeah, I'm not going to disagree, but I don't think it's an absolute necessity. I think Joe Hart's been great. I agree with you. In front of the camera, whenever he's put in, he's fantastic. I can see him going on to become a coach or a manager himself. He's great, and he's been great with the media. And you're right, the excitement he's got. I mean, he's at a certain age now where his career should be winding down, but he seems just as excited as a 21-year-old first coming into the team. It's fantastic, and that enthusiasm must rub off on the guys. It must be great in the changing room, great on the training field, to have somebody like that, another leader. I just think he's been a wonderful acquisition for us, and I'm all for it. But I mean, we know in the past.
Did you see that?
Past, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. I know in the past Rodgers likes his keeper to be good with his feet, which we all know Joe Hart's had problems with in the past. So I can see why people put 2 and 2 together and get 4 and think we need another keeper. But yeah, I like Hart. I don't think it's a necessity to get somebody in. What I would say is that there is obviously better out there. And if somebody else came in, and I wouldn't be opposed to. But yeah, I think Hearts. I think all the keepers you've named there that we've got at the club anyway, he streaks ahead of everybody else. And Seagrass has been on the Tinder. He's away to Australia, you know.
Aye, Seagrass has met a model in Australia, and he's come out in an interview saying he wants to move. He wants to move there eventually. The guy is insane. Maybe that's why I didn't get a look in. I find it interesting from my point of view that we got rid of 2 keepers really quick during the week, Hazard and Doohan. Obviously, Ross Doohan. Obviously, with the likes of Seagrass, if he's unsettled, then you're maybe expecting him to go to the A-League because he's found the love of his life in Australia from Tinder in Scotland. But okay, that's roll with it, Seagrass. And then that leaves, obviously, Joe Hart, Toby Alawami, and Scott Bain. For me personally, I think we need to get another keeper in. I think we personally need to get a number one, just straight out number one. I'm not going to go down the whole Joe Hart bashing him and stuff, but I think there was points at last season where we could see maybe European football elite level, like you referenced at the start of the podcast. I just don't think he's learning more, Willie. And I know he signed Doris de Vries. That was a freak of nature, getting him into play with the ball at his feet. But we need a keeper who can, if Rodgers wants that, who can do everything. Do you know what I mean? He had it with Kasper Schmeichel at Leicester. He wasn't allowed to replace him. He ended up with Danny Ward in that. Yeah, who was on loan to Aberdeen, and he was rank rotten, and he had to use him in the Premier League. So, I mean, so if Rodgers wants a keeper, I wouldn't be against it. But again, go back to the coach thing. Maybe there's a space for him with Stevie Woods, and also keeping his playing jersey as a number 2. Do you think he would be up for that, or do you think he wants to play at this age?
I still think he wants to play. I don't think he's going to give up that shirt that easily. I would love to see him in a coaching role after his career ends, whether that's something he'd be wanting to do at Celtic or not. But he's another one that's obviously bought right into the club, everything about it. So I don't foresee him going. But I hear what you're saying, and like I said, if there was another top keeper that came in, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But if we went into the season with Hart as our number 1, with Bain and Olawemi. How do you say it? Olawemi. Are you sure? I can't believe I'm taking tips off you. And
trust me, mate. Names. I've done it. Speak for me. 2 nights a week.
If Hart was number 1 and they 2 were backup keepers, I wouldn't be too disappointed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you look at it, and as you said, he's full of enthusiasm. Do you know what I mean? He's ready to rock, and I think he's staying. It looks like he's staying. I think he would have been out the door already if he wasn't. But Mark Nugent comes in. Benzi saying that wasn't a good move, but it wasn't a ball and goalie move either. No impact on the playing staff. He has ambitions outside his career. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's fair enough, but I don't think it's good coming out saying he wants to go to Australia to hook up with his latest sloozy and just be there. I mean, I don't understand that, but yeah. I mean, another player he was out, he did a quick interview after one of the first sessions under Brendan Rodgers, was everyone's favourite man, Matt O'Reilly. I mean, he's posting all these saucy pictures up on Instagram. He's getting stuck in the training pits and in the new training gear, by the way, which looks incredible. To be fair, and a wee bit worse for wear in actual kits themselves, but we'll talk about that another time. But he basically came out and he said, just a quote from it. Basically, Anne's paraphrasing here was a wee bit more standoffish. Rodgers gets in about it, sits with the team at lunch, talks to us about her day. Do you think that was maybe a wee parting shot the Postecoglou? But because, by the way, some of these players react differently, right? This is when the man management side of things come out. Some players need an arm around them. Some players need a bullet up the arse. And it just seemed like to me, at sometimes in the season, Postecoglou was just remained the same. I never really seen the human nature side to him where he could go over to Matt O'Reilly, for example, and have that talk. You said Kennedy, that's fair enough. But I think for the main man, for the coach, for the manager, it's important to have that aspect of the game. And I just find for me, it was interesting that Matt referenced that very quickly in a 1-minute interview. He said it, he got it out, and people are reading into it. Do you think it was a dig, or do you just think he prefers that approach?
No, I think he probably just prefers the approach. I don't think that's the first we've heard. Like I said, every time I've heard players talking about him, every one of them is the exact same. It's like he's the boss and that's it. You know, there's a story that what's the boy that was at Hearts and Dundee United, Ryan McGowan, where he talks about when he was with
Ryan McGowan,
and then he got stuck in the plane next to him, and Ange never said a word to him, just gave him a few stares now and then.
That was like me and you and Grace's when I told you Postecoglou was leaving.
And I think that that's obviously just his style. Is it like you need to be scared of me because I'm the gaffer type style? There's the videos of the Australia thing where he's throwing things about and punching walls and screaming at players. And it seemed like that's his style. Like you, I agree with you. I think and you need both. I think there's some people that need an arm around the shoulder, and there's some people that need a rock. And he's obviously very old school, and I think you can see that with the. And I know we're in a phase where the model is to get players in a couple of seasons and go, but there was a number of players. Giakoumakis is the biggest one for me. I'm devastated we let him go, and I think especially now that Ange is no longer here. But Ange is just zero tolerance. I think for me, looking back now, I think maybe if Gigi's knocked on his door and said like, "I'm wanting more time on the pitch, Gaffer," I don't think he would. I don't think he would respect that as much. I think he would take offence to that, and it would end up being a rammy rather than a civilized conversation without knowing all the facts. But it seems that way to me. A very authoritarian. Like this is the rules. That's it. If you don't like it, get to. So, and I think you're bang on. I don't think O'Reilly. I don't think O'Reilly so much hated that, and obviously with the team, like I say, I think the likes of Kennedy and Calmack and all that, I've got that side of things because the team wasn't a dysfunctional team. You can tell they all love each other. It's like a massive thing they brought together. So I don't think there was any of that. But I think O'Reilly probably prefers this just a bit more human interaction with the gaffer. And I said that as soon as Rodgers came in, I said that's going to be the biggest difference. He's a one-to-one coach, and he can take players aside one-on-one and have that relationship with them and make them better players.
I think there was a point last year. Do you remember when O'Reilly kind of went off the boil? There was rumours about he was going through a tough time. Maybe, I'm not saying it would have been different, but maybe if a Rodgers at the helm, he could have been guided through that a lot easier. Because it seemed like it took him months to get back to where he was. And I know we don't know. I know we don't know where the tough time came from. But again, maybe it's an issue. I mean, maybe, as you said, that's his preferred style of management.
Well, here's a point. Remember, Griffiths was going through all his nonsense, and Rodgers came in. He gave him a 1-year contract, didn't he? And like they gave him time off.
Yep.
In fact, it was when Ange came in, he got a 1-year contract. But he gave him time off, tried to help him through his problems, all the rest of it. Do you think if Ange was there, he would have been getting that? He'd have been shipped on the next transfer window. He'd have been shipped off to whatever club. I'm not bothered about his issues.
Not being harsh here, but Lee Griffiths went through issues every season.
No, I agree. But what I'm trying to say is Rodgers is trying to.
Yeah, but let's be fair.
Rather than
let's be fair to that situation, though, without getting into the politics of it, he done something that was very over the line. Let's say. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of came to fruition. Whole.
I'm talking about before when he had his gambling and his whatever.
Oh, right, okay, right.
I'm not talking about that stuff.
But I think Lee Griffiths, he got past the point. I mean, he really was past the point.
Absolutely, but not at that point. I don't think where the club and Rodgers tried to help him, and I think Giakoumakis has probably just wanted more game time. Well, you're not getting it, so get out the fucking door. Whereas I think another manager, if it was Rodgers, it could have been. He could still be with us and playing a bit more of a part. I don't know. Maybe it's just me speculating, but I think that's the biggest difference between the two. And I think O'Reilly's stated that himself.
I think as well, it's what's that saying? Different strokes for different folks, isn't it? People prefer different styles. I mean, you referenced that Lee Griffiths thing. I totally agree. if Ange was in charge at the time when he had the gambling issues, he would have been told to pack his bags and do one. But Rodgers, with the more human nature side of things, he took him and he was like to have time off, recuperate and stuff like that. So yeah, different. Matt O'Reilly again, he seems to enjoy the fact that he sat with him at lunch and had his chicken nuggets and chopped them up for him. So it's a win-win at the minute. Like, but you also like you look at it, and I'm not being funny here, but obviously I don't have Celtic TV. I'm not paying 70 quid to watch replays. Like, and there was just a short clip on YouTube, and what you can go by anyway. Rogers seemed to be buzzing. He was shaking everyone's hand. He was like, someone got a haircut or a shave. He's like, fresh shave, and give him a wee slap in the cheek. And he was giving Bernabé a hug after he was hungover from the night before. And he was in about it with everybody. Did that give you like a refreshing angle of what's to come? And it looked natural. It looked like back to what we were used to.
Absolutely. You've seen it when he come on social media where the fans were outside Lennoxtown and he's stopping and hugging every one of them, and he's just got a big smile on his face. I totally believe everything he says when he's so happy to be back. And I said to you once Ange left and I had my wee grieving period that I would never fall in love again because I'm sick of this, people coming in and falling in love and then they're leaving again. But I'm totally all in with Ange again, with Rodgers again. Like, absolutely love the guy in it. It's a totally different side to what Ange's shown. But I think we're going to end up with similar results because
a bomb just went off there in case anyone wondered.
Because as much as Ange was complete domination, before Rodgers it wasn't complete domination. Maybe on the league side, but I'm talking about all these trebles that we won. Rodgers was a start of that. So and I love the comments about how, I think O'Reilly said it as well. I don't know if Joe Hart mentioned it as well about how Rodgers congratulated him on all the achievements last year, but it was confine that to history because like we're going again this year. Boise Bus is brand new, man. So just fantastic to have him back, and it's like I say, it's not. I talked about earlier how it seems like there's a bit of doom and gloom because he likes of Jota and Ange and that going. But in saying that, we're sitting talking about this now, and there's a buzz about O'Reilly, there's a buzz about Joe Hart, the gaffer, there's a buzz about it as well. So it's great. I can't, like I said, I texted you guys last week, and I was like, I cannot wait. And I'm not one for pre-season. Like, just like, let's get the season started, but I'm actually buzzing for pre-season to start now.
Yeah, 100%. I'm totally on board with that. And obviously, as well, we were talking about the finances previously, and we'll put our accountants hat back on. And for the second time this year, Willie, since the turn of the year, Celtic went to the stock exchange and said they're expecting significantly improved financial results from what they thought it would be. Accounts to be released September time. I think we're all expecting the turnover to be in around 120 million, maybe more now, since they said it's meant to be more than what it was. And then the TLO transfer fees, Willie, should that translate into better spending for Rodgers, better spending for the squad, getting the first team players in that we need instead of beefing out? No, the whole term under Postecoglou was beefing out the squad. Should we be looking to first teamers coming in now with that type of money in the club?
Oh yeah, well obviously, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, this is where we're going to disagree again, Stephen. Like Ange obviously had it was a totally different job because he had to totally rebuild the squad. So there is going to be a part of buying backup players. But once he got the nucleus of his squad, I don't think there was very many coming in that he wasn't looking to push to get in that first team. I think that's always been the case. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the money's there to be spent, but I think we've shown in the last couple of years you don't need to spend absolute fortunes to find wonderfully gifted footballers. Kyogos and Rio Hitates, and I mean, we didn't spend any more than what's the max, 5 million, 4.5 million on one of these guys.
Kyogo was 4.5. Hatate was like 1.5.
You don't need to spend absolute fortunes to find wonderfully talented footballers. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't. If this reader is brilliant and it's 15 million that we pay for him, then yeah, let's spend it. I'm all for it. But what I'm saying, I don't think that we need to. I don't think there's a massive need to go out and spend fortunes on players. We've spent fortunes on players before and it's not worked out. Even like, I know it's not like 7.5 million. It's not on the CCV. I think it was 7.5, isn't it? I think him and Jota were both
6.5 each. 6.5.
not a lot of money, but CCV was colossal for us last season. So yeah, the money's. I mean, I think we're probably definitely in my lifetime. I think right now, financially, we must be in as good a place as we've ever been. So it's fantastic, and it shows the model's working. Unfortunately, that's where we are. I think that's where we've been for a long time since Martin O'Neill. The model is unearth players, bring them through, keep them for a couple of seasons, sell them on. The good thing now is I think the figures that we're getting are the figures we should be getting. Before a Jota or whatever might have went away for 6-7 million himself to England, now we're getting the money we should be getting for these guys. And it's all down, again, the board needs credit for that because they're getting these guys on long-term contracts. And no, absolutely, Pam, totally agree. We should be spending it if it's the money's there. The money's there. So if there's an opportunity, Alistair, I think we could. I really, really think we could. I would not be surprised. These rumours that are going about, they don't surprise me. I mean, we'll go on to who the rumours that are coming in, and we'll touch on them. But yeah, like I said, if the talent's there and we need to spend the money, spend the money. But what I would say is I don't think you need to spend absolute fortunes to find talent. You're not telling me, right, out in that market that Celtic can attract, right? I'm not saying, because we're not going to get Haaland, right? There's no way we can attract somebody, Kyogo's quality, out there, like a known entity that's as good as Kyogo for the English Premier League, for example, for less than 15, 20 million. No chance. But we can unearth them from these leagues. Kyogo's worth fucking twice that. He's unbelievable footballer. So yeah, I mean the model's working. I'm totally have faith in everything the board have been doing, and the scouting team. Tillio, I don't know if you've seen his presser today. I've seen a wee bit of it, seen snippets of it. And I think he got asked about, are you Angie's? Were you meant to be Angie's signing? And he says, no, this is years in the making. The club have been keeping in touch with me, and I'm not Angie's. It's the club that's been. So it's brilliant to hear that. And yeah, the model's working. We've talked about kind of the Ajax model and the Dortmund model. I think Dortmund do it just on a much bigger scale.
Mm-hmm.
They get the elite wonder kids like Haaland They spend stupid money. They spend 20-30 million on the player. Put a clause in his contract for 70 million and say, right, play 2 years with us and you can go for that. That's the model we're at now, just on a smaller scale. And by God, it's working. The players we've unearthed, the scouting team, really need a good pat on the back because some of the players we've seen coming through are fantastic. And to get Jota in on loan first, get him for 6 million, and then a season and a half later sell him for 25 plus. Brilliant.
It's incredible. And it's mental to think at one point in time, Haaland was transferred for just over £2.2 million from Molde to Salzburg.
And a lot of teams turned them down as well, eh?
A lot of teams turned them down. I think one of them was Manchester United, and I know Solskjaer was in charge, and he was pretty adamant that he wanted him, but they didn't do it because of probably the team and the league he was at that time. But I mean, I think it was under Rodgers who broke the revenue record again in his first spell. I think it was £101 million. The cheek of the man to come back in and be in charge when we break it a second time, and also second time around, he's the highest paid ever Celtic manager. The guy just runs in records And then
we spent money then as well. Remember, Edward we got for 9 million or so, and back obviously we weren't spending big money, but that was big money for us. The board are willing if it's the right player, they're more than willing to put their hand in their pocket, and more so now because of the amount of revenue and the amount of the transfer fees we've brought in.
Brilliant point, Jed. Brilliant point. And see when you look at it too, right? There's a lot of consensus in the comments saying that Rodgers has time, not a long amount of time to assess the squad, see what he needs, and not panic buy. Obviously, we're used to the fact that Postecoglou brought players in literally 2 days before transfer window started, and most of that was obviously logistical reasons coming from Japan and getting the negotiations with their team out of the way because their season ended round about that time. But you look at it from Rodgers' point of view, and Mark Nugent said it earlier on as well in the comments. Forgive me, Mark, for not being able to go back up and find it, but I did read it. Basically saying that it just needs tweaks like a right winger, like a centre midfielder, like a left attacker, and that type of stuff. So in regards to like obviously the revenues, and I think someone else said in the comments that the revenue side of things is not what we have to spend. And obviously not. The wages come into that,
Yeah,
the
of course. Aye.
infrastructure, the maintenance of the stadium, all that. So you're probably looking, if we turn over 120 million, £120 million, you're looking about maybe 70 to 60 million pounds left in the bank, cash
Is
rich.
that all?
That's the term that's all. But that's the term that the Celtic board like to do in these statements. We're cash rich and blah blah blah. But you look at it as well, and you said that Alistair was a wee bit, we won't spend £15 million on a player. We were a bit earlier on the podcast going, do you see that as being the potentiality? Because for me, I look at it again, and you see teams like Club Brugge, you see teams like Ajax, and let's be fair here, the infrastructure and model and size of the club, we're probably bigger. We are bigger. I think that's well known, but the TV deals come into that, and the money they get because they're playing in the Dutch league is the premium again on the European tax on football players. I mean, case in point of that is Trafford. I think it's James Trafford, a City under-21 goalkeeper, joined Burnley for 19 million quid,
Seen that? Aye.
and he didn't even kick a ball for them. He was playing in
Not
League
played-
One last
aye,
year.
he's not played in a higher League One.
So do you think that we'll maybe see in the coming years that we might get the odd 10 to 15 million pound bracket player maybe every season, or is it going to be a one-off like the 6 million, like the 9 million?
I think if the model continues the way it's been going, and we continue to bring the money in that we're getting for these players, then absolutely, aye. I don't see why not. But like I say, if it's right, then I spend the money. But we've shown we don't need to spend that money to bring in wonderfully talented players. I think with Rodgers, just to go back to what you were saying, I think with Rodgers coming in and he's not got much time to look at the squad. I think the biggest thing he done when he first came in, and I think he had this in the back of his mind, is he's kept the whole coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't. It's not a whole new coaching staff coming in and learning the team. These guys have worked with these guys week in, week out for 2 or 3 seasons now. So he's got that in his arsenal. So he doesn't really need to. I know, to get to know them on a personal level, and it's his style. But we've talked about how it's not too dissimilar. So I don't think it's a massive transaction. And you're bang on in what you said with Mark Nugent. This isn't a massive fire sale and like totally a turnaround on a full new squad. And Rodgers himself said it in his press conference about how, pardon me, Andrew's done a wonderful job, and he's never had this before, because every club he goes into, it's usually because the previous manager's not done so well and he's having to rebuild and then take them on. Now, it's not. We've got a fantastic squad, a fantastic first 11, and he's just looking for additions to that. I think we're as strong as we ever have been going into a transfer window. Obviously, all over social media, everybody's going to be. I've already seen it this week. Is anybody getting a bit cold feet because there's no rumours of making any transfers? I know you will be too. Of course, yeah. But I mean, if the season started tomorrow, the squad's good enough, more than good enough to compete at this moment in time. Of course, we want to see more, and there will be more. I think there will be a couple of big announcements in the next few weeks. But remember, this is a squad. Other than is it Jota? Who have we lost? Jota, is that the only? Well, we lost. Only mainstay we really lost.
I think there's more.
If they're not coming off the top of your head, then it can't be that important. I think we're looking all right, to be fair, mate. I think
you see the tan? Yeah,
it's looking good. So the walks you're doing, mate. Yeah, a few additions, I'll be more than happy. But yeah, just
it feels more than Jota. It feels like we've lost Moy, Sean. That's Moy. Yeah, there's another one.
Moy's gone as well. Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. You're talking about the fees, about spending 15 million. See, because we're not needing to buy 6, 7, 8 players, and you're only looking at 2 or 3 possibly. I think we'll do more than that. But yeah, of course you can spend more, because you're not transforming the whole team. It's a magic place to be in. We're in such a good position, such a strong position at this moment in time, and I can't wait to see what we're going to bring in. I'm very, very excited for the looks of Tilio and the South Korean lad that we're looking at. Well, don't say it, Pam. He'll be in the very next comment. He'll be after the beard.
I think though, like if sorry to cut you off there, really, but if we're gonna stick with this model and aspire to be the next RB Leipzig in terms of trading, the next Dortmund in terms of trading, the next Ajax in terms of trading, we need to speculate to accumulate. Do you know what I mean? We've got the money there. Plums McNugget with a cracking wee reference. Brendan spending. What a way to say that. But you look at that, and we all know the recruitment is back where it needed to be. Roger said that the levels have improved with Mark Lawwell, with Joe Duggan, people like that from the City Group. By the way, they're going to bring a wealth of knowledge that we probably never ever seen before in terms of data, scouting players from different countries and different regions of the world. So do you think effectively that's what we're aiming for? We talked about the aggressive transfer model. Is this really going to be it now for Celtic? We're going to get used to losing players after 2 years, moving them on, higher transfer fees, and also as well, that for me is the right way to go.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's happened. I think that's what has been happening, to be honest with you. I feel like we all feel a bit hard done by because the transfer fees we've been receiving for these players have not been nowhere near where we think they should be. Whereas the last two, aye for Aberdeen, the last two seasons have shown that with the money that we've got for these players. So yeah, I'm more and more happy. I complete trust and faith in this recruitment team and the board at this moment in time. There's nothing they've done in the past 2 or 3 years that have made me think otherwise. And I mean, I remember Ange coming out before January and saying, talking about don't fall in love with the players because we need to be aggressive in the market and we're always looking at, and that's not just him. That's obviously the whole recruitment team that drive that. So I believe that the process is still the same. That if people go, they've already got. I've no doubt in my mind that coming into this season, they had a transfer target in mind if Kyogo left, for example, to replace him. And there will be Jota. Whether it's Tilio that's the man that they've scouted to replace Jota if he went, and that's why they've brought him in, then maybe so. If it's somebody else that remains to be seen that we're going to find out about shortly, then we'll see that as well. But I do believe that they are aggressive in this market and they are constantly working night and day that we don't see during the season, and everybody's banging their heads together and thinking, if we lose this person, we need to find a replacement, and this is who we should be going for at this moment in time. I've no doubt in my mind of that, and it's just fantastic. Like I say, it's a fantastic position to be in. The model's working. We're getting the big bucks finally now. It's sad to see these guys go, but we've always said that nobody's bigger than the club, and if there's if the player wants to go, then so be it. And I get everybody in here for the opening day of the season.
Wow, what a day that would be, wouldn't it? Incredible. But no, I do get what you're saying. Obviously, in terms of the model's been happening for years, but I think we're seeing it more aggressively now, bigger transfer fees, and hopefully that's the trend and it continues that way. Jed Thomas asked in the comments, are Celtic playing the friendly with Wolves in Dublin? That hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'd say keep an eye on it, because I think a few of us, maybe, hopefully, from the podcast will be going down to it. I mean, hopefully some of us do make it over, and Jed wants to go over with his daughter, so maybe we could all meet up and get a few scoops down in Dublin. We'll never know. We'll play it by ear on that one, Jed. We'll come back to it.
I'll remortgage your house before I come along, or drinking in Dublin.
Listen, mate, I'll bring my car. We can sleep in the back of it. But you were speaking about transfer fees. Obviously, literally the last couple of seconds of the podcast that I done with Franny and Anthony on Monday, it was confirmed that Felipe Yada left to join Al Ittihad for 25 million up front, and I think 5 million in add-ons if certain agreements and circumstances are met. We'll be getting that, so that'll be 30 million pounds. I think in total, Celtic have raked in around about 18 million quid. I don't know the exact figure, because Benfica had to get a chunk of that as well. But yeah, good bit of business. But just a quick one, and I've seen a lot of distaste in terms of what's been happening since he's left. He obviously put a post up saying he can't wait to get started at his new team, which is normal, and that's natural for any player to do, to kind of buy in with the fans and buy in with the culture of that club. But he hasn't said a goodbye to Celtic, will he? Do you think think that a bit strange? I thought a guy like him would be quite emotional, to say the least, because obviously all the stuff he does and outside the club as well.
Shit, Patter. I was going to ask you the same thing tonight. I was wanting to see what you thought about it because, like I say, the relationship he built with the song, with the Down the Brazen Head, in the pre-season where he was met the guy in New York with his Celtic shirt. He's always had this affinity with the fans, scoring goals and the celebrations and in with the crowd. I think that might be something. I think there will be a post. Maybe he's waiting
Next year.
He might think it's a bit raw at the moment. But it's shit Patter. See that, Jed? I think it is shit Patter for him, to be fair. With the relationship that he's built, I think it will come eventually.
That's a fair point. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah, that's right. Remember the one where he was where he's hugged Ange and everything's black and white except his shirt? That was probably his goodbye.
Yes. I don't know, mate. I find it for me, Mark Kearney, where's Francis and Mark from Boise Bus? Mark. Franny's he's knee deep in the Boise Bus right now, watching the Bustalgia. But I tell you what it is. I think it's on Cal McGregor tonight, which would be a good watch. But I tell you what it is. From my point of view, just think it's the modern day player. I think, isn't it? Everything's so subliminal. Everything's so subjective. Everything, you don't know what to believe. Yeah, it could have been we graduated, we won the 3 titles, and also the black and white photo with Postecoglou. But at the end of the day, Jada must have known that every single Celtic fan loved him. From the iconic celebrations, the whole, remember that one with the fist and up and then
it was
scoring
the background
at
of my phone. No, fucking
away. Scoring at the Bernabeu, do you know what I mean, and all that type of stuff. So I don't know if I've lost any kind of, obviously going to Saudi Arabia, we discussed that on Monday and stuff, but obviously it's a bit shit, right? We know he's made the move for the money. It's 100% he's made the move for the money.
I don't blame him for that, to be fair.
But hold on a wee second here. Is that the me, Pam, or is that the Stephen Rags? I don't think you were passive aggressive. But yeah, it's definitely for the money. Maybe what Pam was right saying there, maybe he's a bit embarrassed about the whole situation, how it came about. But at the end of the day, appreciate the love you got. Do you know what I mean? Appreciate the fact you were supported.
I think more all the level-headed supporters understand why he's went. I mean, I know
192 fucking grand a week, like, totally.
And what would he have been on us? 20 grand, 25 grand, probably.
A Fredo bar and a bonus of a pack of crisps if he done well.
I mean, I totally don't understand it, but the funny thing for me is, and by the way, the majority of stuff I've seen on social media is a lot of the fans have. It's been a nice transition. It's thanks for the memories. Wish you all the best, which I had to laugh at. And that's how I feel.
I know where you're going. Going.
That's how I feel about it. Listen, I totally understand why you've gone. If I'm timesing my wage by fucking 200, I totally understand it. But this is my train of thought with fans. Whereas Rodgers' time in the first time round, he got to a point where he felt like he couldn't work in that scenario. We obviously know the whole Sved signing thing, and he felt it seemed like he wasn't in control. And then there was a job out there where he felt, well, I need to go now. I've achieved a lot. Let me go and see if I can further my career here. And just went to Spurs because, let's face it, he feels he can further his career. He feels that that's a position that's a bigger, better league in his eyes, and he wants to go and further his career. Yeah, they're rats, and Jota's left literally for blood money, and it's, well, we thank you for everything you've done. You're not a dirty rat. You've not left her. I just don't understand the mindset of some. I
think the cushion there, Will, is the 25 Spondulix that he's thrown in, the 25 million.
Well, we got decent money for Rodgers when he went. I think we got a decent fee for Ange when it comes to managers anyway. I just don't understand how the two don't compare. But for me, like in every scenario of that, wish them all the best. If you don't want to be at the club anymore, then I don't let the door hit you on the way out. But and when it comes to
What's
Jota,
that saying? What's that saying the Americans say? Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord spits you.
in Jota's case, will we miss him? Absolutely. What a talent he was. And he's only going to get better and better. If you're looking at it through his eyes, I know a lot of people will say that his age, he's going to go and waste his career. For 192 grand, I'd quite happily waste my career for a week, every week. And like you say, he's still a young boy. What's he signed, a 3-year deal?
Yeah, 3 years.
Go and make a mint and come back. And what's that? I don't understand that.
Rodgers left in February. Postecoglou left at the end of May.
Yeah, but my point was, even when Ange left, there was lots. For what I've seen on social media, that he was a rat as well. When in his mind, he's going to further his career. If you're talking about the moral side, he's not going to further his career there. It's not a career move. It's for money, and in that case, morally, where the money comes from, is even worse. Yeah, it's seen differently. I just, in my mind, I don't understand that.
It's all a bit contradictory, isn't it, in the grand scheme of things? Because obviously, the reactionary sense of when fucking Rodgers left the first time, it was crazy. Do you know what I mean? Even KT, Kieran Tierney, got it to a certain extent when he left the club, and then Postecoglou and Jota, for some miracle, is getting the happy clappers and getting congratulated going over to Saudi Arabia to sit and, I don't know, sunbathe all the time. Granda comes in, these players are away, whatever talking about. Very, very cutthroat there, Granda, very cutthroat. But I think we're coming to the conclusion here that maybe Jota's a rat. But at the end of the day, look, there's reasons why people move, right? Jota can set up his family for years. I think he's going to earn over £10 million over the stay of his time in Saudi Arabia. And then obviously Rodgers is back in the building. So things calm down a bit. So I mean, maybe he will do a post in a couple of weeks to summarise his time. Maybe he won't. Because at the end of the day, we're Celtic, we keep going. No player's bigger than the club. We're going to replace him. And talking about replacements, Willie, there seems to be a South Korean player coming in to join his compatriot. A bit of a transfer saga, if there ever is one, when we're signing players from Asian countries, because it goes so well. But the club he's at the moment, I actually think it was O's old club, Blue Wings or something like that. I think so. Maybe someone will correct me here. But the player's called Yang Hong Jun, and he is brilliant, isn't it? Unbelievable. And like a correspondent for South Korean football. But he seems to be able to play on the right hand side or left hand side. From what I've seen, I don't know if you've seen any clips. Have you seen any?
I have. I posted one in our chat. I said, "Fucking screw Jota, he's in."
He looks a baller. There was a clip of him taking the ball down in the halfway line, taking on two players, getting around them really easily. He can score goals. He can get into the box. He can assist. So it goes back to the recruitment side of things. It seems like they have all their ducks in a row, and if we get him in, if he's anything like Jota, it's a win-win.
Absolutely. And for what I've seen, I don't know much about him again. Like you. Few YouTube clips, but I mean, YouTube clips made Amido Balde look good, so it's no much to go on. But for what I've seen, he looks a similar ilk to Jota. It's very flair player, winger, running at defenders, flicks and tricks, and all the rest of it. And is this one that's of that ilk we're talking about, and the aggressive transfer where the scouting department? I'm pretty sure we were linked with him before Jota was, or before he was announced, definitely anyway. But whether he was going to come into the squad, even if Jota was here or not, or whether he is meant to be the direct replacement because Jota was on his way, we'll never know. But he does seem like a similar type of player. And yeah, the guys in the chat, the man's putting up his year waged as part of the transfer fees to come to us. He can't say much more than that. So yeah, hopefully, and I think it's because they're in a bit of a relegation battle at the moment, and they don't want to lose them because they want to stay up. So you can understand that from their point of view. But I think I did read somewhere that they're getting a striker in, so they're maybe willing to let him go. But yeah, hopefully we get him in and he gets a pre-season under his belt. Again, very, very exciting to see some of this talent coming through. It's like that the market that, and it must be Ange that's opened up that market for us. Since That market he's opened up for us it's absolutely worked wonders, and it's not failed us yet. I don't think there's been one signing, maybe Gucci, that's kind of failed. But other than that, everyone's been a smash hit. So hopefully this is another.
I mean, you look at it as well. And go back to Marco Tilio. It's interesting we've actually signed two kind of wingers, and he was asked today what his best position is, and I can't say the word he used because I'll make a fool of myself, but he said he's both footed, which I thought was fantastic, and it gives us a lot of options in the wide areas, and also with if I can get his name, Yang Hong Jun coming in, he looks an absolute baller, and like people are saying in the comments and yourself, he's given up his wage to make this move over to Celtic Football Club, and also again a bit of company for O as well, probably knowing him and stuff like that, coming through the ranks at South Korea national team, and hopefully I can maybe help him bed in coming into this season when this gets announced, because it looks like, I mean, Anthony Joseph, he's reliable. He said it's ongoing and the club are willing to do business now, so probably expect an announcement in the coming 48 hours, probably over the course of 2 days. But one thing that did kind of go up in flames, Corvo, fluent in Korean, you know it, Chief. One thing that kind of went up in flames was the pre-season tour of South Korea, albeit it was one game against Wolves. They pulled out very early on. I think Roma or something pulled out, and Bayern Munich were due to go over. They've pulled out. It seems like the contractor or negotiator didn't fulfill the payments or didn't fulfill something anyway. A couple of days later, Celtic put the announcement out that it's over, that we're not going there no more due to financial and logistical reasons. Pretty much the same statement that Wolves put out on their website. But I know the Japan tour makes sense, obviously, with the contingent that we have with Japanese players, the brand, they recognise it, they make money, global and stuff. But I think sometimes these pre-season tours are a bit more hassle than they should be, instead of keeping it simple.
I think this one, because of our following now on that side of the ocean, and the players we brought in, I think it's a no-brainer. We should be going over there. There's like with the players we brought in, I think we owe it to them and the fans over there, because, like I say, it's a massive following now because of this, and it totally makes sense for us to go and do that. So I can see why. When it comes to just pre-season tours in general, I don't see any issue with us flying out for somewhere for a couple of weeks and getting a few games. And it seems to me that we are not the reason we've pulled out of this. Logistically, it doesn't work for us because we're meant to be in a tournament with 3 other teams who have ended up pulling out. So what we're meant to do, I think it's an absolute travesty, to be honest with you. I think the Korean fans are wanting to see it, and I feel really sorry for them that they're not going to get to see this team. We must have been getting super excited for us to go over there and then to get to see the players in action. And it's a shame, but I mean, what can you do? I don't think it's been the fault of the club. It's been the fault of others. So
yeah, you have to kind of let that go. And I think that comes back to the point: will Celtic play in Dublin this season? There's a lot of rumours saying they will be playing Wolves, whether it be what do you call it again?
I wouldn't be playing Wolves, by the way. If they're one of the reasons that we pulled out of the other one, I'd be like, fuck you, we'll get somebody else.
Get that Sydney FC or something over to play in Ireland. But no, I get what you mean. Anything to recognise the brand to make money is worthwhile, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, we have to generate our own income streams and stuff like that. And Mark Nugent comes in with a team. It's Gangwon FC. Maybe it's not the same team. I thought it was.
Listen, when the World Cup was on, we flew the other side of the world, and that wasn't just us putting a pin in a map. Because of the massive falling we ended up with. It's because of the massive falling that Ange and all the rest of it brought over to us, and we ended up, it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100%. But they kind of rounded off, Willie. I've enjoyed the discussion. We'll do a wee roundup of the transfer rumours and just kind of maybe more the sense of probability of it happening without getting into the actual details of it, because we've spoke quite a lot about rumours tonight. First up is the Swiss player from, is it Basel, isn't it? He plays for?
I'm not sure.
It is no Young Boys. It's Young Boys. Fabian Rieder. He is 20 years old, 21 years old, Swiss international. I think he's an attacking midfielder. He looks excellent, by the way. I know we see YouTube clips of the players we're linked with, but you go a level above that, he's premium. He looks premium. probability of it happening, and also probability of us spending upwards of £15 million on this individual.
Yeah, young boys, good team. Need a bit more experience though.
Philip Schofield plays for him. That's so bad. So bad, really. So bad.
Yeah, I'm not like I say, I've only seen wee snippets of this boy, but for what I've seen and read, he's obviously a very, very hot prospect. A massively hot prospect. And if that's the fee that needs to be paid, I think Celtic will pay it if they think he's our man. Without doubt, I can totally see us breaking our transfer record this season.
Mm-hmm. So can I.
You can't see us rolling out all the figures that we've been rolling out and then turn the boy down because of that. If they think it's right, I think they'll definitely go for it. And yeah, I can definitely see it happening. I don't know much about the boys. I struggle to comment, but
to be fair, Willie, none of us do.
If he's that age, and a lot of clubs are sniffing about him, and that's the fee, and Celtic are looking to pay it, then he's going to be a right good player.
Yeah, he scored an absolute belter against Manchester United in the Europa League. He top bins at Old Trafford, so it was a fizzer. It just went pew. Next on the list, our former left back, our former man, the boyhood club, the legend, Kieran Tierney. Loan deal, looking possible, hasn't been outright denied. Still a lot of people in the rumour side of things saying it could be a goer. Where are you standing on KT coming home?
Well, there's only two players where I've been absolutely devastated that have left us, because I'm definitely
Amiro Baldi's one of them.
Aye, and Henry Kamara. I'm definitely that ilk. I'm definitely of that ilk where it's like, if you don't want to be here, then fine, away you go. Obviously Larson devastated me, but that was different because I knew it was coming, and he gave everything for us. So I was obviously upset, but I was devastated when Gary Hooper left. And the other one was KT, absolutely devastated. I had my sister's wedding the day after he left us, and it was in my speech how devastated I was about it and everything. That's how much it cut me up. I thought he would have been a Calmac in a forest and he would have been here forever. Fortunately, it's not turned out that way. I would have him back in a heartbeat, right? But only under certain circumstances. Ross on the podcast nailed it for me. He sent us in the group chat saying about how if this is a loan deal for a year, I don't want it to happen because it's going to, like, Taylor's more than capable. I don't see why we should get him in for a year for him just to go back again, stop Taylor's progression. The only way I would have him back, like I say, I think he's top player. I go and see Scotland at Hampden, and he's one of the best players in the park every single time we play. Doesn't matter where he's playing. I would have him back in a heartbeat, and he would go straight into that first 11 for me. But it would need to be, if it's a loan, it needs to be with a view of permanent, or it needs to be some sort of permanent, a view to permanent in this contract, because I just think it's pointless bringing him back for a year for him to go away again. So I don't know, Joe. He's obviously not. He's homesick. He's not settled well down there at all, and his Arsenal career stop-start. I think if he had an opportunity to come home, he would. But for me, it needs to be, if it's a loan, it must be a loan with a view to permanent, or a permanent signing, which is obviously going to be difficult because it's going to be a massive fee, and his wages are going to be stumbling blocks. So I can't see it. I would love for it to happen, but I think a 1-year loan is just silly. I wouldn't be wanting that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, same here. I think me and Ross we spoke about that Monday, didn't we? With Kieran Tierney coming back, and for me, it's a romance. It goes back to the romance, and I think McGranda nails it here again. He's injury prone. He's missed over 80 professional games in 5 years. I don't think that's good enough. We all know the talent he has and stuff, but I think we played a part in his injuries. Let's be fair, in the hip flexors and all that type of stuff. He had to get injections, and it's probably stop-start for that reason as well. And as you said, I think he's quite publicly said that he is a bit homesick. He likes to go up and see.
The Arsenal documentary, he's talked about his mental health and how bad he was, and he's got a guy, I think in the documentary, he's got a guy that says he's chef, but he lives with him. He's one of his pals for up here. I think he was his chef up here. And he needs that because his mental health has taken a bashing since he's went down there. So I think if the opportunity to come back was there, I think he's went down. He's proved a lot since he's went there. He's got an FA Cup in the bag. It's not been an unsuccessful turn. I think if the opportunity was there, I think it would be something that he'd be willing to look at. And I think he would take a wage cut, but he's on stupid wages, so the wage cut would be mega. So it's interesting. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, but like I say, if it's a 1 year loan deal, no, thank you.
I think as well that
some sort of permanent at the end of it.
What speaks volumes for him too, even though he's been injured and he's been out of the team, a lot of pundits and a lot of Arsenal supporters want him playing week in, week out because of what he gives that team.
I think I think Lacazette was a captain when he left. The captaincy was up, and I think
they wanted him to be. Yeah,
I think they did a fans poll and they wanted KT to be captain. Yeah.
But again, a lot of people in the comments are saying that it's probably not going to happen. I think we're erring on the side of that as well. Unless a miracle happens and Arsenal terminate his contract, we're not banning him on a permanent transfer. But another player that has been linked from Arsenal, quite kind of on and off, maybe more off than on, is their centre half, Rob Holding. His hair has made a better comeback than Abba. Do you know what I mean? But you look at it, Rob Holding, he's been a kind of bit part player, but he's played a lot of games over the last couple of years for Arsenal. I know last season there was talk when he came in, that's when it derailed their title challenge because Saliba, I think Holding got injured. And then you hear a lot of people on TalkSport and stuff. Yes, for my sins, I listen to TalkSport, but I don't agree with most of the things they say. But where do you stand on Rob Holding? For me personally, wouldn't have him anywhere near. He probably, for me, he wouldn't even get into Hearts. So I think he's absolutely he's atrocious. I don't think there's any good quality about him. And I think for me personally, Starfelt and CCV, they're level above.
Yeah, I agree. I think, to be honest with you, I think that rumours kind of went quiet, thankfully. I had to think of something, Willie. I had to think of something. No, I agree. No, we need to touch on it, definitely. I don't think that he's... I think if that's what we're looking at, then everything I said about the scouting team needs to just get thrown in the bin. I think that we should be aiming higher than that. I agree with you that if he came... I think if he came in, he wouldn't be ousting CCV or Starfelt. Absolutely not. And I think we let a better player than Holding go in Jens last season. So I think we should be aiming high on that, to be honest with you, mate. And I think Jens got another move in Germany, I believe. So I can't remember who to, but he's higher up than what he was with Schalke. Remember I said it. What did I say before? Schalke. Shackle. Corvo. Holding has struggled to play for Open Goal Broom Hill. Totally agree. And finally, on the goalkeeping front, the man who always gets linked to this every single season, every single window, every single time Celtic have money, Fraser Foster. Oh, fuck!
I would not have him about me anymore after what he done last time. It looked like he was all set to sign, then he fucked the way off. I'm not taking him back. No chance. No way. The first time round, him coming back, it was like, okay. No after last time. No after they gave that bullshit interview about his affinity and his love for the club, and then a week later, fucking fucked off back. Yeah, no thanks. Again, he's another one it's aging. I know keepers have got and Hearts probably older, but nah, not for me. I'd be looking. I think we should be looking at much better than that. That's exactly sums my feeling up. And I swear to God, by the way, see if it was something. It's mad because Punch McNugget said about Messi. See if it was Messi that we had, right? And it was the same scenario, and he came to us, then left, and came to us and left again. I wouldn't take him back. I'd just say no, do one. Didn't care how good you are. It's not about the player he is or that now. It's about the history and what's went before and that. No thanks. Has he not joined like Miami Vice or something now? I'm pretty sure. Or Inter Miami or something. Whatever they're called. By the way, they've got Busquets as well, and they're looking to get Suarez. And Jordi Alba, by the way. So they're trying to get the old team back together, right? Last season, Foster was like a hologram, and that's Barkas is our hologram. But to be fair, Willie, that kind of rounds up the podcast and Plums McNugget talk shite. That kind of rounds up the podcast, and I thought, for me personally, I enjoyed the chat. Have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely, mate. It was good to get back and talk about current affairs and not be on here for 7 hours. As much as maybe we need to do more podcasts so that we can just kind of split it up a bit and do a half-time, full-time next time I do a rewind. But nah, it's been great, mate. Honestly, I can't wait for the pre-season to start and it's just to hit the ground running again and we get talking about more signings and just to get the football back on the telly again. And I just can't wait to get going. We've already been talking about what we're going to be doing for the next season, and the podcast is growing and these guys' support. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. I just can't wait to continue. I mean, we've already talked about us doing the live Champions League draw again. That was fantastic. Can't wait to do that again this year. Looking forward to that. Loads and loads of exciting stuff coming up and loads of exciting stuff coming for the club. And I just can't wait for the season to start.
Yeah, I think as you pretty much summed it up there. We do have a fair amount of changes coming to the podcast, which will be announced in due course. We're just getting it all kind of dot the I's and cross the T's type shit, isn't it? So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be announcing it soon. And like Willie said, maybe watch out for a few impromptu podcasts throughout the weeks and all that type of stuff. Wee bit of fun and wee bit of a laugh. And as Willie said, there's rumours going around that people are literally taking days off to watch these rewinds. So we'll have to keep that up and keep that going because it's good crack and we love everyone getting involved. And as was said at the start of the podcast, mental health, we all go through it. People are still going through it. But please get involved with these numbers down below if you feel the need to or speak to us. Pam, let's see, Pam as well. Let's see if I can find it. Please add the memberships. We're trying to get that sorted out. There's an issue with certain details, but we'll get it 100% and people can jump aboard with us and help us out and keep the podcast rolling. Sherbet D, love the Endless Celts podcast. Man on the street patter. Exactly. That's all we ever want to do is have a laugh. I know we're serious sometimes, but let's be fair. We're joking and we're laughing and we're having fun. And that's what we like to bring to the table. But until Monday, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.